Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are unpacking something absolutely crucial for senior leaders, the UN Adaptive Leadership Accelerator. If you are currently navigating a highly complex mandate, you know better than anyone that your daily challenges simply cannot be managed away with more paperwork. So let's dive right in and look at how this program acts as a real practical investment in your ability to adapt and lead.
Let me ask you something right off the bat. Are the familiar routines you've always relied on starting to fail you in the field? You've probably noticed that just working harder or enforcing stricter administrative discipline isn't actually fixing those deeply rooted issues your teams are facing on the ground.
And that points to a really critical difference. A technical problem? Well, you can solve that with a new reporting structure or an updated manual. But an adaptive challenge is a whole different beast. You simply cannot procedural fix your way out of it. It requires deep behavioral shifts, testing new values, and really rigorous systems thinking.
Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the modern UN challenge, define what adaptive leadership actually is, look at navigating conflict, discuss trust and safety, and then wrap the whole thing up with a 90-day implementation cycle. Starting with Section 1, the modern UN challenge, leading in complex mandate environments. Before we can talk about solutions, we really have to contextualize the immense pressures you're dealing with.
Because I know you are living this reality every single day. You're trying to drive progress where authority is scattered across different silos, resources are incredibly thin, and the stakes are literally life or death. You add in staff fatigue, constant digital disruption, and stakeholders who just can't seem to agree, and you've got a recipe for extreme volatility.
And here is the hard truth. When the answers aren't obvious, leading on those familiar management routines actually becomes a liability. Your teams are desperately looking to you for direction when stakeholders passionately disagree, and doing more of the same just isn't going to cut it anymore.
Which brings us nicely to Section 2. What exactly is adaptive leadership, and how do we move beyond those simple procedural fixes?
If we strip away all the corporate buzzwords, adaptive leadership is actually a rigorous discipline. It is the structured practice of intentionally stepping back from those daily fire drills to diagnose the hidden behavioral challenges. It's about treating the disease, not just the visible symptoms. As we can see from this defining principle, leadership just can't be reduced to planning and reporting. It takes immense ethical steadiness to mobilize people when your path forward is entirely uncertain. It's about having the courage to lead through politically sensitive periods, even when you don't have perfect evidence to guide you.
It's literally like a doctor prescribing medicine without running any tests first. You must separate the surface symptoms from the deeper systemic issues, because if you choose a tool before accurately diagnosing the challenge, you risk solving a highly visible problem while leaving the actually broken system completely untouched.
Moving right along to Section 3, navigating conflict and complexity. Let's explore how you can actively manage that inevitable friction through systems thinking in action.
Now, there is a really delicate balance to strike here. On one side, we have these modern UN 2.0 capabilities like data analytics and digital change. But on the other, you're facing complex human realities, lived field experience, and severe staff fatigue. You simply can't force digital transformation without actively addressing team morale.
Now, this is a real game changer, a massive shift in mindset. Stop avoiding conflict. Instead of hiding bad news to keep a temporary peace, you need to use conflict as vital data. When you face pushback, that resistance is strategic intelligence telling you exactly what your system is trying to protect. By applying systems thinking across all these interdependent moving parts, from finance to the very real gaps between headquarters and the field, you can intelligently sequence your priorities. Taking this holistic view drastically reduces those painful, unintended consequences when you're rolling out major changes.
Let's shift gears a bit for Section 4, building trust and safety. This is all about moving from formal authority to true influence. Let's be honest. In highly volatile field settings, your formal job title is rarely enough to secure real commitment from your team. You have to move away from positional authority and actively build genuine, earned influence through trust, fairness, and strategic listening. And to detect risks early, this is absolutely crucial. You must establish psychological safety. If your teams are terrified to respectfully deliver bad news, you are going to constantly make critical decisions based on incomplete or falsely optimistic information. Because the ultimate goal here, you want to develop adaptive teams, not dependent ones. You need a team with the judgment to act confidently in ambiguity, sharing ownership of the mandate, rather than just sitting back and waiting for your next instruction.
Finally, we reach Section 5, the 90-day implementation cycle. How do we take all these concepts and convert them into real institutional value?
Well, this is not just some passive training retreat. Post-course, you execute a rigorous 90-day action plan to guarantee a return on investment. You'll map out one live challenge, pinpoint specific behaviors to shift, and then run a safe, controlled experiment, all without disrupting your core delivery. It's all about turning those lessons learned into sustainable behavioral change. Too often, after-action reviews don't actually change daily practice. This structured follow-through ensures you're converting your new reflective practice into disciplined routines and real accountability. And the payoff for this commitment is huge. You aren't just getting improved cross-boundary coordination. You are tangibly reducing institutional confusion, making clearer decisions even with incomplete info, boosting morale, and ultimately delivering much more credible service. I love this summary. The program helps convert pressure into learning and learning into action. Ultimately, your goal as a senior leader is to protect inclusion and keep your teams anchored to the UN mandate, no matter the disruptions swirling around you. So I'm going to leave you with this one final provocative thought. When the next inevitable crisis hits, will you rely on failing routines that only treat the surface symptoms, or will you show up and lead with disciplined adaptation? The choice you make is going to define your impact. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.